Fiona Barnett 1, CIA, Nilqua.
Fiona Barnett, thank you so much for joining us.
No worries.
How are you?
Sick. Got the flu.
Let's talk about Eyes Wide Open.
Yeah. That's why I'm sick. I imagine, when you're stressed all your life for like 48 years, it takes its toll in the end and your body starts breaking down. So
I don't think people realize that most survivors and victims are in fight or flight most of their life. And so their adrenals are shot, and their coping mechanisms are gone. They live with that every single day for years and years, walking in PTSD constantly, 24/7. And like you said, it's a life sentence. It doesn't go away.
The example being, I put the book up and some agent, could be Nicole Kidman's, one of Nicole Kidman's people, could be anyone, but turned up at my kid's bus stop a week ago and just to harass and threaten and intimidate and give me the message, we know where your daughter, gets off the bus, the school bus. So that's the end of the school bus, isn't it? Just stopped, screeched to a halt, obviously took photos. And what they might not have realised is one of our neighbours was in the car behind them and got all the details of the car and everything. And I got the details and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, it's just the usual. Like people can try and dismiss me as a fantasist. But, gee, I get a lot of attention for a fantasist, don't I?
Well, and for a fantasist, your story has never changed. Not once. Not one jot, not one tittle, not one iota.
Yeah. Except when Steve McMurray found more information, filled in the names. That's how it's changed.
Yes.
When he would find the people and the places, Yeah. But if anyone's been following my story since I first went public in I was kind of public in 2012, 2013, clandestine. But if they've been following, they'll realise that I didn't know the names that Steve found, back then, and that's what's unfolded. And then we found more locations and we put it all together. So I had the memories, but I never had the names to go with it. Not a lot of names. Had some, but not what Steve found. And so that's where Steve's research is throughout the book. You'll find scatterings of it, but mainly in MK Ultra in Australia. So. Yeah.
Fiona, did the harassment at the bus stop start right after the book came out?
Yeah, it did straight away. It was, yeah. And I've had a lot of death threats. I went off social media. I don't know, when did I go off social media? Over 6 months ago. Had lots of threats then. And we traced it back to who the people really are responsible. And it was coordinated by some guy called Paul Mullen. So that's in the chapter Conspiracy Fact in my book. I've explained who really is behind all of this, who targets whistleblowers in the UK and Australia. So, yeah, definitely. And they've got, what are they called? They've got special agents who work with the police and with the Fixated Persons Unit. So you've got, what are they called? SOIs or something? SIOs or something, whatever they're called, Secret Intelligent Operatives or something like that. It's in the book. Yeah, so that's who came after me. So they're trying to set me up for false arrest. And, of course, then they would take me off to their criminal psychiatric unit and, subjected me to what the same people did to me when I was a kid. So that's what they tried to get me to accept illegal weapons and they did all these sorts of things. And because I had studied law, I'm just sitting there going, dude, this is illegal, all the way through. And I'm, and they handpick people that I would like and get on very well with. And that's who came into my life. And I'm sitting there going, yeah, this is completely illegal. Yeah. So I avoided that with God's help and help from some other people so far. So I kind of half lived to fight another day, sort of. As you know, I didn't want to do any more interviews. I didn't want to do any more of this. But the book I'd promised back in Seattle, okay, I'll write a book. I'll put a book together. I told victims over there. And I'm pretty committed to when I promise something. So
I want to talk about the cover of the book, Eyes Wide Open. Why did you choose that? Let's talk about the title first, and then I want to talk about the graphic for the cover of your free ebook.
A family member chose the title, so I can't take credit for that. And of course, it's a reference to Nicole Kidman's Eyes Wide Shut. Sorry. So Eyes Wide Open is a reference to that, and to a reference, eyes being wide open. And the cover is a pencil sketch I did years ago, 30 years ago at art college. And the year that I did that pencil sketch is the year I really started having flashbacks and remembering stuff. And I remember doing that sketch, and I remember my state of mind when I was doing the sketch and just how unhappy I felt about everything, and just in a mess that year with everything coming up. And so, yeah, the sketch, and my daughter threw the cover together and with the sketch. So, yeah, I had her do the cover. I conned her into doing the cover by doing a really bad cover. I said, "Oh, what's wrong with it?" She's like, "You've got to be kidding me. That is just," it really grated on her creative nerve. And so she said, "Oh, I'll do it." Well, I'm like, yes, that was my plan, because I knew you could do
like
better.
The cover, but I like this one better.
Oh, this one's better. The other one was terrible.
I liked it.
That was never going to be the cover.
Let's talk about the book a little bit. It is free. You can get it on Fiona's Pedophiles Down Under. There is a link. Please share it, pass it around, show it to everyone.
So you can get it on fionabarnett.org and pedophilesdownunder.com. It's a little bit harder on Pedophiles Down Under because that's an older site. It doesn't have, some of the functions of the other. But if you just follow the links, just click on the link, and it'll get you there eventually.
What kind of a toll did this take on you, Fiona?
Oh, it nearly killed me. I was at it by the end. I mean, some of that book has been written years ago, various sections. Some sections are from my very first book that I wrote in and nearly got published in the very early 1990s by Albatross Books in Sutherland Shire, Sydney. And that was a good book, but this one's better because I hadn't really processed all the military stuff back then. I'd only processed the ritual abuse. So the first book was called Fruitless Deeds of Darkness, and it was just covered mainly the ritual stuff. Then this one, I really threw myself into writing it, I think, as soon as I went off social media. And it built up to the point where by the end, I was writing it 7 days a week, all day, all night. It got more. And towards the end, it was like, oh, nearly done. And no, I was never done. I'd wake up with another thing. Oh, you got to put this in. Then wake up again. Got to put this in. So in the end, what you've got is a raw manuscript. It's unedited because it's supposed to then, I was at the stage where you put the book away for 6 weeks and then pull it out and do your edit. And I haven't edited it. So it's got some spelling mistakes. One place I used the wrong name, things like that. I haven't done a final check at all. And there's a couple of things that I've got to put back in it. I wanted to put in it. And I'd forgotten about it. It was things like I didn't explain the relevance of the Lucas Heights nuclear reactor, ANSTO, why a nuclear reactor was, why this CIA base was, had a nuclear reactor in it, and why everything was done there, because the relevance of isotopes, the relevance of using radiation in the transhumanism process. So to work with human DNA and stuff it up, basically using, and that's what radiation does. So I really, I've forgotten about that, but what happened at the last minute, I got really sick. I So one day I phoned up a local publishing group, and I was looking at publishing it properly. And the next day I went to therapy, and my therapist said, look, end this book. This is just ridiculous. I was getting sicker and sicker and sicker. And see, I can't, because of my vestibular stroke damage, I can't look at a computer screen all day the way I was. And I was getting very ill. And also writing the book was triggering my memory. So then stuff would come up, because like I've got years and years and years of memories. You know, you can't remember them all, can't work through them all. What are you going to do? Work through 20 years of your life for how long? Anyway, so it was making me ill, and my therapist just said, you know, you need to draw a line. You've got to stop this, or I predict you'll be bedridden within 3 months. Like, you'll be really sick. Anyway, so, and then the next day my computer crashed, and well, I lost all the files, everything. And then everything was corrupted. The backups were corrupted. Everything was just like, yeah, okay, well, that was odd. And so then I had to quickly pull, I had the book, you know, backed up in other places. So I just had to try, and I had this retarded computer, and I had to try and just get it out there. So just had to try and attach the cover page to the PDF and just upload it. There's nothing else I could do. So I had no time to do anything else to it like I planned. I just went, I've got to get this out, because I could feel the pressure coming in on me to stop the whole project. And then what else happened after that? Something else significant happened after that. I can't remember. You might remember. But you know, you've been privy to the whole process. You saw the decline in my health. And
I did. It was really intense. Yeah.
And with your husband, with his health background, you were quite aware of what was going on.
Yes. And I've noticed these kinds of issues with almost every single victim survivor that I know. I mean, serious physical issues. Why now? Why? You were going to put it away for 6 weeks. I realized the computer crashed. You still could have sat on it for a while. Why did you feel like it was important right now?
Oh, because my life's under threat. They don't want, the CIA doesn't want this book out. But the royal family who the CIA work for, the British Royals. And what timing? You know, Prince Andrew, Jeffrey Epstein, Paul Keating's daughter Catherine, all tied up into the trafficking, you know, circle over there in America. And well, they're the ones behind everything. That's who Paul Mullen works for, the fixated persons movement and unit. They've got 3 fixated persons units in Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne in Australia. They pump millions of dollars. And Mick Fuller, New South Wales Police, is the one that really went after me. They were all after me. So there were agents from all units after me. And so Paul Mullen was coming after me, and he works directly for the royal family. Now, Paul Mullen is connected to every major Australian, New Zealand, you know, mass shooting, you know, Port Arthur, all this sort of stuff. And he's the one who's orchestrated this whole thing. And he's actually an MK Ultra agent. He's got an MK Ultra history. So they're after me. So I was under the pump to just get rid of this book as quickly as possible. So that's why it was very stressful, because I'm six months, I'm typing, going, oh, you know, they're coming. So it was very stressful. And
it's true. You were looking over your shoulder the whole time. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was very, very aware that, you know, I mean, they were trying to get me before the book, you know, so the main thing is they want to stop this book. You know, like now all they can do is try and discredit me criminally, psychiatrically, you know. So still try and set me up for something, you know. But God willing, it's up to God now, you know. Like, it gets to a point in life where you just go, you know what, I can't. How am I supposed to fight the CIA? This is crazy. Just in the end, you have to give it to God. And I just said to God, well, see, I didn't want to write this book. You know, I didn't.
Mm-mm.
I fought it the whole way. It was like, yeah, I'm starting. And I'm like, this book. I wrote a book in the 90s, you know, and it was pulled at the last minute from publication. So, you know, I had the shits about that. I'm just going, oh, why make me write another book now, God? You know, I wrote the book. And so I was very reluctant, and I was trying to do a half-assed job. But, of course, I'm a perfectionist and just kept on growing. And I thought, this is more like a reference book. It's not an autobiography as such. It's very light on my biography. There's just enough in there to explain the phenomenon in general. So you've got, what have I divided up into 4 sections? So I've got, the Luciferian cover up is the first section. And then I've got, the Luciferian philosophy, how they think. Because people always go, why would they do this to kids? Why would they, do this to babies? Why would they? Well, I explain what they are thinking, as best you can when you're talking about people who are completely possessed psychopaths. Who knows how they think when they're like that. And then I explain my experience of it all. So I explain my experience of, CIA child sex trafficking, so candy girl, prostitute, all that sort of stuff, to VIPs. And I explain my recruitment as a MK Delta child soldier in the Delta Special Ops Unit, combined American Australian soldiers. And then the last part of it, and I explain, the recruitment process, and some of the chapters in there, like relevance of intelligence, I've expanded on. I did that, some of the things you've seen before, and I spoke on in Seattle at the conference. But this time I've really gone into depth, and I've really had to try and put in lay terms, this highly scientific information. And then the last section is how to heal. Well, what do you do with all this? What can therapists support people and victims of these crimes do? Because there's nothing out there for them. There's nothing. You get a few books. The only thing that you had leading up to this was Fritz Springmeier stuff, really. That was the only how to help or, sort of information, and the Greenbaum speech by Corridon Hammond. That's all there is out there. All the other stuff, you've got a few biographies and things like that, some fake, some real but used by the CIA to suck in people like me and silence us. But there really wasn't anything. So I went, well, no one's done it, I'll do it, And you got to understand that some of the stuff I wrote about in the last 6 months, I had to first study it myself and understand it to write about it. So the physics behind the chapter on MK Delta is nuts. I mean, these are CIA documents. They're military intelligence documents. And I had to read this gobbledygook, this weird quantum physics stuff, or whatever it was, and try and make sense of it, So I've done that to the best of my ability, and, so that, and everything's backed up. Everything I've written, I've tried to back up with evidence. I didn't finish doing some referencing. And I don't like to take credit for other people's work. There's a little bit of section there on neuro-linguistic programming that came from someone else's site. I adapted it, and then I didn't have time to find that reference and put it in. So there's a few references missing there. Sorry to those people that I didn't reference their work. It just, I didn't get there. But basically,
I got to tell you, when I read the book, I was absolutely blown away. Blown away. You go into a lot of science of left, right brain hemisphere, how they work, how sociopaths and Satanists will use that to their advantage to train children. I am in awe of the research that was put into this, because it is a lot of research. And like you said, everything can be backed up. Who would this benefit?
Well, it will benefit the population at large who want to understand what the hell's going on. What's going on with the Jeffrey Epstein case, right? The George Pell case. George Pell, just the third most powerful Catholic in the Vatican, just had his appeal quashed, but he can now appeal to the High Court of Australia. So we'll see how that goes. A bit of a game. The Jeffrey Epstein thing, the Nexum trials in New York that Jules covered so well on Twitter. This explains to people the crime that's out there. Where are serial killers made? Where do people think up to do these crazy crimes. Why these mass shootings that don't kind of add up? And witnesses, if you talk to them, go, well, there were multiple shooters. There wasn't one shooter, and it wasn't a child. It was people dressed as SEALs, like the Port Arthur massacre. There were multiple Navy SEALs come up out of the ocean, and the perpetrators of that, like the people I trained with from age 6, they were shot down in a helicopter crash in Rockhampton, according to Tim Roy, who's ex-SAS, been through the same stuff as me. Now, if you want to understand why the gender, this gender stuff that's come out, and this big movement, to get rid of the 10 Commandments out of, your courts and all this sort of stuff. If you want to understand what the hell, this is what some person said to me, some feedback. They said, this explains everything. This explains everything that's going on in the news. It's the background. It's what's happening in the background. It's the agenda and who's behind it all. So from that perspective, that it'll be of interest to the general populace. But it's of particular interest, and it was written particularly for victims of ritual abuse, right? MK Ultra mind control techniques, child trafficking, which is run as a globally run by the CIA, right? Child trafficking is a global phenomenon. It's not just pockets of people here and there. It's run as a single integrated operation coordinated by the CIA and worked in by all the other secret service organisations around the world, and ultimately benefits the Royals and the Rothschilds. They're the ultimate benefactors of all that. It is for victims of all these sorts of crimes, organised, sex crimes, organised pedophilia, organised child trafficking, and victims of cults to some degree, because most of the cults are CIA covers. Their cutouts were created or taken over by the CIA in the 60s and 70s, including Hillsong especially. That's the most modern cult I can think of that is taking the USA by storm. And it's nothing but a child trafficking cult, and they're into Luciferian ritual abuse. And Anthony Kidman was highly linked to Hillsong. I know multiple Hillsong / Anthony Kidman victims now, and therapists working with them. It benefits those people. Now, because, and I explain how the False Memory Foundation group took over the narrative regarding, satanic ritual abuse, the satanic panic, and all these fantasists who said all these things came out in the 70s. There was a big wave of disclosure to therapists in the 70s and 80s, and they had to shut that down. So Michael Aquino, Lieutenant Colonel Michael Aquino, head of special ops, PSYOPs in the US Army. He also is in the Esoteric Order of Dagon, which is the military Luciferian order. He headed this shutdown operation in the 80s and early 90s, and it shut down everything in America and Australia, all this disclosure. So I explain all of that. I explain who's behind that, how the Australian Psychology Board, everyone who was on the Psychology Board and ran the board was part of this False Memory Foundation thing, and they're all MK Ultra perpetrators, right? So I explain all of that. Now, so you're not going to get anywhere in therapy in Australia, especially. It is a therapeutic wasteland. So my book, I put all the history behind everything I'm saying. I put all the references there, all the newspaper articles, which discounts what Commissioner James Wood said in the Royal Commission, the Wood Royal Commission in the 90s, about how this is all fantasy and it's all bunch of hysterical therapists made all this up, all this ritual abuse and child trafficking by the CIA. That's all made up. And they buried all that, and they killed all the witnesses, or silenced them, or bribed them, or threatened them, or whatever. I explain that what happened, so you can then understand, right? And I explain why all the therapies are ineffective, because they're designed by the CIA perpetrators, the MK Ultra perpetrators in the first place, like Anthony Kidman. I explain all of that, so you can't deny what I've put in there, and all the hidden newspaper articles within Australia, right? dating back to the 90s, early 90s. I explain all the journalists who are agents employed by the CIA to cover it up in Australia. I explain how all that's phenomenon. So there's no denying this exists. What I say I've been through exists. Okay. And so a therapist can get their heads around it. I explain how the kids are abused. I explain the selection process. And then I explain how to fix it. You're not going to fix it using any of the therapies that are out there. No mainstream therapist is going to help you. Nothing. They're designed to perpetuate the trauma and the dissociation, okay? That will not help you. None of that. But I tell you what did help me and what is helping others. That is why this book has been written, mainly. The whole thing's a build-up for the final section. That a section on trauma-focused integration is the pinnacle chapter. That's what all the lead up, all those 20 chapters are leading up to. All right. So it's for the victims and their therapists and the support people to understand and believe victims and begin to know what to do and how to do it. Because I detail that well, don't you think?
I think you detailed it beautifully. And I would like to encourage, again, everyone to get the free link, read the book, show your therapist. If you're a victim or a survivor, I would like to see this take psychology and psychiatry by storm. I'm telling you, give the book to your therapist. A lot of therapists out there, like you said, they have no clue how to walk their people through this. They have no clue. They can't get them through it. They can't get them through it safely. They can't get it through. They can't get them through it in one piece, mind, body, and soul. What I love about your book is that you're right. You don't go into the ritual details, but you do in Candy Girl documentary. So I would also encourage people, for the most well-rounded view that you can get of Fiona's story, you need to see the Candy Girl documentary, and then you need to read the book, and then you need to read it again. I actually took notes on it. It was so enlightening to me, some of the processes that you talk about that your brain and body go through whenever you're being traumatized and tortured. The last chapter is fantastic, and it is going to change people's lives. I absolutely believe that this could take therapy by storm. And having said that, when ScoMo released his statement in the National Day of Apology, when he said that we're going to honor victims of ritual sexual abuse, think about that. The Prime Minister of Australia said ritual sexual abuse. He acknowledged it, which means this happens across the board. So being that it was acknowledged, I would think that therapists would be clamoring for anything that's going to help these victims. Why are we not seeing this?
Because of the concerted effort to shut us all down, victims like me down. I mean, you know, I know of people being murdered. I mean, I know of people who just been bribed. I know of victims who turned agent and started working against other victims because they were, you know, offered $600,000 payout. I know of victims who were terrified and didn't want to lose their family and whatever, so they turned on me and others. You know, it's human nature. When we crack, we all go different ways. We crack in different ways, and that's what they did. They targeted us all, and they target therapists who work with victims like me. They targeted my other therapists that I've worked with before. That's, you know, that's why they shut it down. You know, people don't realise. I mean, look at the attacks I got on social media when I was on Twitter. I won't go back on Twitter. It's just, Twitter is shitter. You know, that's my saying. Half of your traffic on Twitter is they are paid CIA, NSA, FBI, ASIO, cult-connected agents. They're paid to sit on their fat asses and slander you all day and to turn people off. And, you know, and that's Twitter. You've got no control over, you know, the way it's set up. It's just terrible. So I've had enough of that. And that worked right. Like 5 months, I did a campaign trying to, you know, 5 months in America, did a campaign trying to convince Americans, you know, of the child trafficking that's happening over the Mexican border down there. which now is coming to light. You know, people starting to see the relevance of Mexico, and the Mexican president and his daughter and everyone involved in the Nexum trials, you know, came up that Mexico are involved in that, and all the Nexum daycare centres over there. I was trying to explain why Trump wanted the wall was to stop the trafficking. People don't understand. It was like that Arizona-Mexican border is the greatest land trafficking route in over there. You know, all the kids kidnapped in America would, and I tried to explain all of that. You know, I'm not doing that anymore. I did my job there, and you know, we've got one fatality from that at least.
Yeah. People don't understand that is a gateway for trafficking. And
well, if people just listen to mainstream news and they don't go on alternative media, they're going to have no clue what's going on. I mean, but it's interesting. Everybody knows Jeffrey Epstein was guilty, and nobody thinks he killed himself. You know, like everyone's agreeing. Even the pedos agree with that.
It's true. One of the tweets I put out last week was, can you shriek while you're hanging yourself? Because someone heard him shrieking from his cell. Not only that, but let's talk about Paul Keating really quickly and his daughter. Oh, yeah. If anybody doubted your story before, they cannot doubt it now, because you were talking about Paul Keating years ago. And his daughter ends up leaving the house of Jeffrey Epstein while the prince is waving goodbye to her.
Waving goodbye to Prince Andrew. But just before all of that, what about the little 12-year-old girl, or whatever she was, little prepubescent girl,
shivering in the cold, being walked,
came out, and she's gushing all over Jeffrey Epstein like she's his little, and like a little child prostitute would, you know, like being treated like that, and she's all over Jeffrey Epstein. And so then she goes back inside, and then comes running out again and all over him again and back inside. Then Catherine Keating, the daughter of the pedophile prime minister, I reported to police, and you can see on my blog sites all the police witness statements where I name him. You know, I made to a good cop, Sinead Harper. If Sinead's out there listening to this, I hold no grudges against you, Sinead. She was a good cop, Sutherland cop, who took my statements. Clean cop, but she was stopped from on high, of course. Mick Fuller would have shut it all down. So you've got Paul Keating's daughter leaving the house, the mansion owned by Jeffrey Epstein in New York, where that Roberts girl, who now lives in Australia, I think, I can't remember, the Roberts girl, the witness, said that she was raped at that house and prostituted at that very house. So that Catherine Keating leaves that house, waves goodbye to Prince Andrew, who's really in the shit. I mean, the UK should be up in arms, and it sounds like they are, that their taxes are paying for Prince Andrew to fly over there and rape kids, you know, on Epstein Island. Are you kidding me? So I'd like to see how the royal family are going to cope with this one. How are they going to clean up this mess, Paul Mullen? I'm sure.
I wish people would take their blinders off where they're concerned, where the royal family is concerned, and everything that they're involved in. But we didn't plan on this, but will you go into a really light description of your memory of Paul Keating?
Oh, well, he liked boys. He didn't like girls that I knew of. Now, I don't know where it is. If anyone can find it, I think it was a magazine called New Idea. And I remember my mum was reading it, and she said, oh, my God, look at this. Paul Keating was outed in a major Australian magazine for flying to Thailand and having sex with boys. And that's what broke up his marriage. He now lives as a gay man with a gay partner. He divorced his wife, but he's a pedophile foremost. So he likes little boys, and he raped and murdered a 5-year-old boy on a beach. Back then, it wasn't very populated. So what was I, about 8? And the boy was about 5, and it was on Kurnell beach at Kurnell in sort of in Sutherland Shire on the east coast, sort of southeast of Sydney city. And Leonis Petraskas, the Nazi doctor who was brought to Australia under Operation Matchbox, which is our equivalent of what's that one? Where they brought all the Nazi scientists out. Anyway, Matchbox, I think it was called. It's in my book. They brought Petraskas out here, and he was connected to MK Naomi and all that sort of stuff in New Guinea. Anyway, he was the cover-up doctor. So he wrote the death certificate to cover up Paul Keating's necrophilic murder and rape of this little boy. It went wrong. He had, I think, from what I remember, so the cover-up was sting by a blue bottle. So we've got blue bottles over here, and they'll kill you within hours if someone doesn't, well, immediately if someone doesn't give you mouth-to-mouth resuscitation continually until they get you to hospital. So that's the death. But Leonis Petruscus wrote an article in Papua New Guinea about the death of a 5-year-old girl by a conefish. So that was his area of expertise. Plus he studied with Anthony Kidman at the same time as Anthony Kidman, his mate, at Sydney University. He studied tropical medicine. He did a postgraduate diploma or something in tropical medicine at Sydney Uni. So he was an expert in all these things. Anyway, that's what he used to cover it up. I wrote to the coroner and asked them to investigate everything that Leonis Petruscus ever submitted, because, oh my gosh, you can't believe anything he said now or wrote. Anyway, he was called out, and I came out with Leonis, and I was told, dig there on the beach while he spoke to Paul Keating. And Paul Keating's like, oh, he was friend. It wasn't supposed to happen. He wasn't supposed to kill the kid. But I think he'd like to have sex with them, rape them, and choke them at the same time, and he asphyxiated the kid. Anyway, I was told, dig there. So I just overheard the conversation, and I had to dig the body up. And it was part of re-traumatizing me, it was an opportunity just to keep the trauma going and keep the dissociation intact. And to train me up, I was supposed to stay in that world. Anyway, and on the drive home back to Engadine with Leonis, he was laughing. He's talking about how Paul Keating's nickname is the Undertaker because he liked having sex with dead kids. He liked necrophilic sex. And he was laughing about how that's his weakness and whatever. So that's what I remember. So Paul Keating didn't touch me. I just remember that. So that's why. And I reported that to Sinead Harper. It's in my police witness statement from 2015, late 2015. And it's online for everyone to see if you want to go have a look. So, and then next thing, Paul Keating's daughter comes out. And what you see is all these people, and what she studied, politics, philosophy, international relations and everything. Real good stuff if you're going to work for the CIA. It's a real CV for a CIA. Because you've got to understand all these people Paul Keating associated with were Soviet spies. So when you look into their background, they all link back to the Sydney University push movement, very leftist, Marxist, indoctrinated sort of, group. So that's who he's associated with. He himself left school at 14 or whatever, Keating did, but all the people he associated with were all indoctrinated by Marxist philosophy and whatever at Sydney University, and a lot of them went on to be spies, and a couple of them that I know were assassinated for being spies. And that's all in my book. It's all well covered. Steve McMurray researched all that brilliantly, and all his research is in my book.
And the fascinating thing about that is that watching the Candy Girl documentary and then reading everything that you've put out and then reading the book, it really was like stepping into your universe again, but from a different point of view. What's next for you?
Well, next for me is I'm trying to get away from all this and just not get very sick. So, what's taking its toll on me is all the brain damage and the nerve damage from I had the stroke, so that's pretty bad. I've got very bad symptoms from the stroke, and I'm quite disabled from that in many ways. So I've soldiered on, people don't understand that I've been very disabled for 10 years from the stroke. So look up the symptoms of vestibular stroke. I've got them all. It's bad. Anyway, but also I've got the neurological damage, the nerve damage from being electrocuted repeatedly from the age of, 1. And all through till I was about 15 or so. 16 would be the latest that they electrocuted me. And I was electrocuted constantly, That's what they do the whole way through. If you read my book, you'll see how much I was electrocuted, when my heart was stopped and they used, clear, chung, this sort of thing, or they do that minorly, just as part of their programming. So I have to just keep on going. I really I don't want to write any more books. This is my book. You know, it's out there. It's been uploaded. You know, just the raw manuscript was uploaded and whatever, it's out there. Everyone, you know, warts and all, people can sort of work it out. There was a few things, you know, I should have put in there. Like I said, the isotopes. I'm annoyed by the isotopes, and people say to me and family, oh, you're still going on about those bloody isotopes.
You can't let go of that.
I'm really annoyed because I remembered to put it in and then I forgot and then it was too late, you know. And I'm going, no one's going to understand, because people think it was just security reasons that the nuclear reactor site was used. No, it was used for the isotopes. Yeah, well, so
you've seen radioactivity up close, and what?
Poland. Yeah, well, hang
Tell me
on.
about that.
Story. Well, I didn't put this story in, which was going to go in with the isotopes. Real grandfather was Polish, and I went and visited him in 1990, and it was just after the wall came down, and Poland looked like an old set of an old black and white movie. It was just terrible. But everywhere I went, like the fruit would be deformed on the trees. You know, the apples had big lumps on them. I go, what's wrong with the apples? And they all go, Chernobyl. All right. And I see, so anyway, I'm sitting there watching the news on this old black and white set. And the next thing, there was this rabbit with bird wings on the news, right? On the news in 1990 in Poland in summer. And I'm there and I'm going to, my whole family were there, and I'm going, what is that? What's that? What is that? And they go, Chernobyl. So there was all these weird disformed animals and fruit and whatever in Poland because Chernobyl blew all over them, and the radiation affects. So radiation changes genes, your DNA, and that's what they were doing. They were using radiation to rupture the human DNA and do what they want to do with it and combine it with other things and whatever. And I write about the rest of it in my book, but yeah. But that's the bit I'm annoyed about, because if I put something in, I explain the science behind it. So you can't just call me a nutter, right? You can't just write me off as a nutcase when I put in, like even the Stargate stuff. Okay, I went, do I put this in? Everyone's going to think I'm nuts. And then I went, you know what? They already think I'm nuts. What does it matter anymore? You know, I'm going to put it in because in 20 years, it's going to be mainstream science anyway. And so people can look back and go, oh yeah, that chick that wrote that weird ass book, hey, she was telling the truth. Once I'm dead, everyone will appreciate my book like a fine wine or a great artist painting. You know, when I'm dead, everyone will understand I'm real. You know, but the feedback, I'll tell you some feedback. This is a bit funny. I'm getting some good feedback. I love some of the comments. I just went on Facebook because the book wasn't getting enough traffic, so I put it on Facebook. Well, it's getting traffic now. Anyway, I'm getting some, and I want to thank those people, because a lot of my biggest supporters were on Facebook, and they really looked after me, and you know, that sort of thing, and you know, honoured my reputation and all that. But I got some good feedback. One was like, I've emailed it to you, but I said their feedback was, man, I would read the walls of a toilet public lavatory if I knew you were the author. That was their thing. That was their thing, something like that. So I said, what a shame there's no back cover to the book, because this is what needs to go on the back cover, you know, when you read people's their feedback. Another one was, this explains all this shit in my life. Right? This explains all this shit in my life.
Yeah.
And someone like James Shanahan, he was funny. When his feedback was, I said, I should put that in the back cover. He says, you fucking nailed it, Fee. That was a good one. And he's not the only one. Someone else said that. And I love that quote. But these are if it had a back cover, I was going to do that on the back cover, some of these types of things instead of the old, But some of the feedback I got, I'll tell you something else. Someone I know handed it to, they know a BBC journalist, and they handed it to this journalist and said, what do you think? And the journalist went, well, it's a little bit on the conspiratorial side for my taste, he says, but the book's amazing. So, and I thought, well, that's good feedback from BBC. So yeah, I'll own that. And then another thing someone said to me, they have got some, influential friends, and they said, can I please send your book to Philip Adams, my friend Philip Adams? And I went, and Philip Adams, for those who don't know overseas, he's a very famous ABC journalist in Australia. And I know, James was pretty angry when I mentioned his name, because he says, I used to be a big fan of Philip Adams and used to listen to his radio. And then one day I heard him slag off the existence of ritual abuse and dissociative identity disorder. And I thought, you bastard, you know, and he wouldn't listen to him anymore. Anyway, so a friend of mine says, oh, can I please forward your book to my friend Philip Adams? I said, well, you can, sure, but he's in it.
I wonder if he's read it yet.
Not in a very bad way. Just he's just in one chapter, a list of all the very prominent ABC journalists who attended Anthony Kidman and Martin Seligman's, CIA Martin Seligman's conferences in Sydney. So yeah, no, it was just funny, you know, like, yeah, just some, anyway. So, you know, I just want people to share the book. It's free. I want them to download it, copy it, email it to their friends, take it to the print shop, and get it double side printed and spiral bound. Send copy, you know, in Australia, you can go to Officeworks and that costs about $55, something like that, about $50. You know, make hard copies yourself. Yeah, do that with it. Just get it out there. I don't care who you share it with, whatever. The reason I did this book is because no bastard was there to help me when I needed it. I had no one. I did what you read in that book is what I worked out. I orchestrated. I figured out how to get out of this matrix. Okay. And like, don't be lazy. Don't wait to integrate. Don't wait to implement what I've written in the book. You know, I shed a lot of blood for the content of that book, right? And a lot of other people did. There's a lot of dead people have gone into that book, right? Honor their memory and their legacy by reading it and sharing it, right? Just have an open mind, read it, then criticize, all right? Read it, then criticize, then tell me I'm making it up after you've read it, okay? So I just want people to do that. I'm not financially gaining anything from this. It's cost me, it's cost my health, it's cost my family safety, it's cost relationships, okay? I cop a lot of shit. People don't realise I'm the eldest of 7 children and all my siblings were ritually abused too, right? I'm the only idiot coming forward. And I cop shit from my family for coming forward. My mother gets up me every time I go on social media. Nobody wants me. My kids are up me for going on social media, on Facebook, you know. And then when ASIO or Nicole Kidman's scum turn up at the bus stop, you know, my kid goes, I told you this would happen if you consolidated everything into a book, Mum. You know, but I did it because I'm trying to honour those kids I saw murdered. And I promise one day everyone's going to know who you are. You might not have had a birth certificate, but one day you'll have a name.
So you got back on Facebook on a lighter note, and I think it shocked everyone. It shocked me. I didn't expect it. But you are our impromptu girl, and I got to tell you, everyone misses you so much. I get so many messages that people ask me to pass along to you, and now they have something to really hold on to. This book is incredible. It is incredible. It is one of the best researched and well-documented truths I believe I've read. And I'm a reader. I read a lot. I'm so proud of you.
Well, people who aren't readers say, well, I don't read books, but I'll read your book. Because somehow the way you write, because I'm not a writer. I was never taught to write. I taught myself to write. And like somebody asked me on Facebook, oh, were you an English major? No, I wasn't even taught grammar at school. I didn't know what a noun or a verb was at school. I didn't know whether you put the question mark or the exclamation mark first. I didn't know. I wasn't taught anything at school. And I was taught how to sew in years 9 and 10. That was it. That's what I walked away from school knowing. And a bit of woodwork in year 8. Abysmal education. So no, I was just self-taught, and I just write by feeling. I just write. If it looks right, feels right, you know, the way I do a painting, I do it by sight and feel. So, and I think because of that, because I don't know the rules, I write more for lay people, in lay terms, for everyday people. You know, I can explain things in that way because, you know, I wasn't taught anything. Everything you see is just my God-given natural ability that I have implemented best I could, you know, without formal education there. I gave it my best shot. Like I said, it's unedited. It's got spelling mistakes. You're going to have to overlook that. But one person on Facebook was so funny. Said, "I found a spell." Feedback was, "I found a spelling mistake on this page." And then someone said, "Yeah, you've got to give the trolls something to work with."
Yeah, a spelling mistake.
I think the trolls are going to have a hard time tearing that book apart. It's too well researched, too well backed.
Well, it's the truth, and the truth is the truth. It's immovable.
And the truth will set you free.
That's right.
And that's what we'll do. The truth in that book will set you victims free. Read it, be brave, trust that your gut knows the way out of this matrix. It's not just, like I said, my book isn't a blueprint, isn't a one size fits all remedy. Other people have to adapt it to their own programming, because no two programs are identical. It's all variation on a theme. But the bones are there, and with a bit of creativity, all you need is a therapist who gives a toss, a support person, a pastor, a genuine Christian friend who prays. The Holy Spirit can guide anyone, can use anyone. I mean, throughout my journey, I got a bit from this person, a bit from that person, a bit from this therapist, before they cracked or whatever, That's how I did it. And if you look at what I've been through, if I've survived what I've been through, you can do it too. So it is a message of hope. For some reason, God wanted me to stay alive. He's spared me for this book, I imagine.
Think what this book will do, not just for this generation, but for generations further on down the road. This is going to help people who would never, ever be able to get out of that jail. The jail of their mind, the jail of their body, the jail of being tied to the cult, to their abuse. There would be no freedom for a lot of people if they didn't know how to walk out of it by themselves, because therapy is not much use for a lot of these
these young girls, 23-year-olds straight out of university, trying to tell a 50-year-old with this background how to live, how to heal, whatever. Nah, they're not equipped in any way, shape or form. The book is there for it also to help people understand the choice they're going to make, because in the end, in Revelation, when it talks about the mark, taking the mark or rejecting the mark, it's going to be able to help understand people to understand what is the mark, what are they rejecting, what are they embracing. Because in the end, there's not going to be 50 shades of grey, people. It's going to be black and white. And we're getting towards that. That's what everyone can feel in the air and in the news, and this insanity that people can. It's the Luciferian cult that abused me is rising to prominence. They're coming to the surface. You're seeing them. Their laws are becoming obvious. There's Satan, Satan's after school classes are obvious. They're getting off on child trafficking charges like Epstein did with the slap on the wrist is obvious, right? The Nexum cover-up, if that was a child trafficking CIA network, that wasn't about human trafficking in general. It wasn't about adults. There was a bit of that, but it was child trafficking. So you need to, if you want to wake up, this is how you wake up, man. Read the book, and then know what you're choosing. Know what you're rejecting. We're definitely living in end times, I believe.
Yeah.
And so I think that's why the book is relevant too. People need to turn off the television and turn off the TV sport and just concentrate and turn off the computer games and stop going out to nightclubs and drugging and drinking and screwing around for 5 minutes and just take a look at the truth instead. And it is taking the red pill. It is. My book is a red pill. So, and people will vehemently deny it and, make up excuses not to read. Well, that's good. It's not for them. And if they want to slag it off, well, that book's not for them. I didn't write it for them. I wrote it for a hungry, willing audience.
Is there anything else that you want us to know before we end the interview?
Just lots of prayers for me, please, because obviously the enemy doesn't like the fact that I've produced this book. Just pray for me for vindication, compensation, reinstatement, as I've written in the last chapter. Pray that I get a Job-like ending because, you know, I say to God, like, either kill me or give me peace in this life. You know, I'm not afraid of dying. It's worse things than death. You know, I'm just tired. I've had 50 years of utter shit. My life's been shit. You know, every effort I've made to just live a normal life, as you will read, has been quashed by these people, by the perpetrators. And just pray that I get a Job-like ending and just some peace. If I have to be here, then I need, you know, my body is, you know, it can't sustain much more stress, I suppose. And they know that, and they're going to come after. But pray that they turn on each other. See, someone has to pay penance for this book now. And I'll tell you who's to blame for this book being published. And I had a dream about her, and something will happen to her. And that's Rebecca Doley from Bond University, who made the notification on behalf of Katharina Fritzen. This is where it all started. If it wasn't for those two and the people at Bond who helped them, Lisa Marie Abel and all these people, if they didn't do what they did to me at that university, I would just be happily away working with children, gifted kids somewhere, writing reports, right? I would not be here. I would not have gone public, right? So that is who the cult should be looking at as truly responsible for this book being out there, Rebecca Doley. He's the one who placed the false notification against me to APRA. And then the help of Terry Goldsworthy, the detective at Bond. See, Bond is crucial to all of this. It's a dirty, filthy university that Malcolm Turnbull, who's been implicated in the Alexander Downer thing over there in the US and Trump and all that sort of that nightmare, you can go look that up. He was paid $30,000 a month in consultation fees by Bond University for years. Bond University is nothing, I reckon, was just a money laundering CIA cover, you know, where they bring in spies from overseas. It's mainly overseas university students. And once you've got a degree in Australia, you get residency. You're granted automatic residency. I reckon that's what Bond University is. So, and two of Bond University's lecturers, one's in prison. One of my lecturers is in prison, Paul Wilson, psychology department. And the other one, psychology department, who was there, headed psychology, Bob Montgomery, was charged with pedophilia. And Bob Montgomery's an MK Ultra perpetrator as well. So is Richard Hicks, another, he was an MK Ultra doctor at Bond University. So it was a real hub of some, really untoward sort of psychology. So, you know, people just pray that justice is done and all this is exposed. And my perpetrators are exposed. Or Paul Mullen, expose Paul Mullen. He's the one behind all these agents they set out against these whistleblowers. You know, they set up these fixated persons units to just persecute anyone who blows the whistle against the government, like the one I wrote about in my book, who blew the whistle against Coal Seam Gas. She was a CEO high up in Energex over here, our energy organisation. They dragged her off and injected her and threw her into the Brisbane unit. So just pray that all my perpetrators are exposed, that they rip open Holsworthy, that they rip open ANSTO. I mean, you've got ANSTO, Lucas Heights nuclear reactor, and ASIO are nominated on the redress scheme, which was instigated by the Federal Child Abuse Royal Commission here. That means they're acknowledging that they're involved in the trafficking of children and sexual abuse of children in some way. That's crazy. So ASIO, which is our CIA, and ANSTO nuclear reactor, the CIA base, underground base where I was abused, where they were doing genetic engineering and taking materials from Aryan high IQ kids and training kids in MK Ultra, those two organisations are on the list as being, responsible and able to be sued for child sexual abuse. You tell me what the hell that means, but I'm just a fantasist.
Fiona the fantasist.
Oh, Fiona the fantasist. Who can, Fiona the fantasist, Fiona who, what do they try and label me psychotic? Well, as the Royal Commission said, you're not psychotic, Fiona. It's in the opening chapters of my book. You can't write a book like that and be nuts. You can't. It's impossible. And you can't reference a book like that. And, I didn't make it up, man. It's referenced, hey. That's why I put so much effort into referencing. And that's why Steve McMurray put so much effort into referencing. Read the book, pray for vindication, compensation, reinstatement, and the judgment, right, of my enemies, of those who abused me as a child and as an adult, who used the child abuse against me. And pray against all those perpetrators in the other states, like Victoria, who came against Raina Michelson. What they did to her was disgusting. Down there, pray that all the cop who dealt with me, Louise Hawke, is she a relative of Bob Hawke? Don't know. No.
So there you have it.
Isn't it funny? The internet just went. There you go.
Yep, it stalled totally.
Pray that for justice.
That's right. Pray for justice and bind their sin to them. When I pray about these people, I bind that sin to them in the name of Jesus, and I bind justice to them on earth in the name of Jesus, so that we can see not only what our efforts have reaped, because, you know, a lot of us are standing in the gap with you, Fiona. We love you and we support you, and we want to be here for victims. And
people say, why is she still alive? Oh, if she were real, she'd be dead. Okay, well, whatever. The thing is, I'm alive because people pray. I'm alive because I am a testimony to the existence and authority of Jesus Christ. Right? I'm alive because there is a God, people. And he needed someone to write this book.
Yep.
You know? That's the only reason I'm alive. It's not my own abilities, really, ultimately. And people, you know what people forget, Ty? People forget, guess what? Humans die. We all die once. We will. No matter what, with their transhumanism crap, we all die once. We will die once. Then some of us will die twice. There'll be a second death, which is hell, and in the lake of fire. But people forget we all die. Most people don't know. So just think outside the box. You know, question your reality. Go look up, go read about Aldous Huxley. Go read about the Huxleys, the British Round Table, and their influence on everything in America. The counterculture that they created over there, the drug scene. Who brought drugs into America? Who still does it? Hey, go have a look at it up.
I just want to say that I love you, friend, and Lord bless you.
Thank you, and thanks to all those other people who supported me out there. You know, what I do miss is the interaction with the genuine followers on social media. They're so funny. They used to cheer me up. I used to be belly laughing at some of the stuff people say. I miss that. I love them for that. And you know, and thanks to those other fellow survivors who I've been talking to for the last 6 months and have given me feedback on the book, and, you know, who obviously don't want to be named, and therapists who have helped me also give me feedback, you know, thanks to them. So, yeah, there we go. That'll do for now.
Well, there you have it. In Bed with Fiona. Thank you so much for visiting with us. And guys, I would encourage you to look at Fiona's Facebook, fionabarnett.org. And then also Pedophiles Down Under. Follow the link. It's super easy, guys. Follow the link. That's all you have to do. And then begin to read and watch your brain. And Fiona, hopefully we'll talk to you again.
Well, we'll see. All right.
We sure hope you feel better. You're welcome, girl. I'll talk to you soon. And to all of my Out of the Gators, please get on Fiona's websites. Please download her book. Please share it. Share it. Share it. Think for yourself. Think outside the box. Pray for Fiona. Pray for all of the survivors and victims, and pray for justice. Bind justice to these perpetrators in the name of Jesus. It didn't stop with her. There are thousands of others that are out there suffering right now. So we're in it together, you guys.
Fiona Barnett 1, CIA, nil quoi.